Yeah. So this is a director's cut because typically with television commercials they'll ask you to make say a 30 seconder which the agency wants, and they'll ask you to make say a 40 seconder because a director's cut is normally longer than the cut that you actually see on TV. So this is the director's cut, and this was for this guy was I think he was American, Brendan, and with hair and skin products in particular in television commercials, they have a certain team that works on hair and skin and beauty products. So it's not, they won't just pick up anyone to shoot a beauty product. So take a look at this.
थोड़ी कठोरता मांगे थोड़ी कोमलता naturally zubi zubi zoo थोड़ा टेंशन मांगे थोड़ा आराम naturally नूपुर हैना बालों को दे कोमलता और आराम इसके 9 खास हर्ब से बाल दिखे स्वस्थ और खूबसूरत और इसका प्राकृतिक कवच बालों में हैना का गुडनेस लॉक करे नूपुर हैना शुरुआत गुडनेस की naturally.
Okay, so the first thing that is of importance is, I think what your question was, that whether we work in the scripting or not.
Yeah, I mean, what are the inputs that we need to give to editor? Like, because the shots won't
Your
talk much.
direction.
Yeah,
Your
direction.
direction, right. Just remind me when you're asking your question.
Yeah. So it won't long much, like maximum 18 to 30 frames, or a little bit more than that. So if we want some meaningful shot, particularly, maybe it is sometimes may long. So what we need to give inputs, like particularly to editor, to make it more efficient.
See, what ideally, whether it be ad or be film or documentary, your first step should be to just let the editor be. Let the editor make his or her own cut based on their sensibilities, and then you work according to that, because there's no way you can sort of preempt how a shot is going to look eventually on the edit. A lot of times, for instance, in this ad we had beautiful shots, but we haven't used a lot of the shots which were really nice. So it's really up to then the director and the editor working together in a collaborative way. So honestly, there's no foolproof method, and there's no foolproof sort of brief that you can give. You just have to let the person do their work and then go in there and then try to align it closest to your vision. Even, from the time that you've written the script or you've gone for the pre-production meeting till the shoot, and when you see the rushes, things have changed drastically. So just keep that in mind.
So I mean, one more thing is how much role an editor plays in pre-production stage. Like sometimes we see that most of the work is like best from editor, like cuts or particular effects or anything best from editor. So what even editing effects includes in script part itself, like it includes in story itself. So what is the importance of editor over there? Like how much he collaborated with director at pre-production stage?
See, honestly, in a situation where you're actually working in the industry, it's up to the director really. Because a lot of directors who expect the editor to just be an operator, which you are just kind of making a bad decision on your own. If you're expecting that the editor is just going to be an operator. The whole idea of an editor is to give a neutral, objective point of view. Because by the time you guys are done shooting, you people are up to your ears in that film. So you have no way of knowing whether shot you have taken is actually working or not. The editor is someone who's new and brings a fresh perspective. So I think that for me is the primary role, to get a fresh perspective. If you don't want a fresh perspective, too bad, then one should just edit their own, which a lot of people do, and I don't think those really work out except in stray cases like Raju Hirani. He writes, directs and edits his own films. But I think that's really a very, very rare case. So yeah. So this was one ad. Okay. You guys want to see this, or you are clear on what you saw? Yeah, so register, because I'm going to ask you about the directorial part of this. So just from any of you, from your own personal point of view, tell me which ad appealed to you more.
Depend on story.
So tell me, whichever, on whatever perspective, what did you think was a better narrative, for instance?
Actually, you have to give you information from the last period of the ad all the time. जो जैसे कोई भी प्रोडक्ट हो या कोई भी चीज़ हो, जैसे ये हेवल्स का था, यहाँ पर बहुत कुछ दिखा रहा है रूम के अंदर. यहाँ पर कुछ बहुत सारा सिक्योरिटी है, यहाँ पर मैग्नेटिक ये है, फिश है, कैमरा है, बहुत सारा चीज़ है. तो इसमें क्या हुआ, तो वो जो हेवल्स का जो चीज़ है, जो स्विच ढंग से नहीं लगाया था, इसलिए शॉक लग गया, इलेक्ट्रिक शॉक. दैट्स व्हाई यू हैव टू यूज दैट हेवल्स कैमरा. सो एक जो हेवल्स का जो एड्स है थोड़ा सा शॉकिंग होता है. एंड इसके साथ एंड और एक एड है मैड एंगल्स. दोनों का कॉन्सेप्ट काइंड ऑफ सेम है. देन क्योंकि वो लोग थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट कुछ करके उसका मैसेज देना चाहता है, जो यू हैव टू यूज दिस और यू हैव टू ईट दिस. दैट्स द इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग.
Right, but tell me, could you, tell me one of the maybe the direction students. Who are the direction students again? Tell me. Alright, so amongst you, can you identify firstly, what is the contribution of direction in both the ads? The first is a treatment based ad.
It's actually visually rich. First one is visually rich, and second one is that story is concept is rich.
It's a concept based. Okay, the editors, which one do you think will be something that would give you more scope to cut with? For the editing students, if you got the rushes of, say, the first ad, which is just it's a treatment based ad, correct? Versus the second one, which is a concept based, like a story based ad. The second one. You think will give you more options? Yes. Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, first one. Actually, I think for editors, they need to work more on first.
Absolutely.
Because lot of cuts are there and they need to show it more visually rich. So
usually they also see what happens with a treatment based ad is that they give you a storyboard. Every ad will always come to you with a storyboard. But because the director, for me, the stronger director was the first guy I worked with. The one who did the Nupur Henna ad. Because he just pretty much gave me the rushes. He gave me the storyboard. But he said you don't have to stick to the storyboard. It's just the concept that must come across. That this girl had bad hair earlier. And then she has really nice hair after she applies that mehendi. It's a simple concept. It's not like some rocket science. So for you, when you're given a whole bunch of rushes, say 15 minutes worth of rushes for a 30-second ad, which is a lot. He's one of the directors who shot crazy amounts of footage. Like 15 minutes is a lot of footage for an ad. So then you just have to pick even the editing style. Like in this ad, the Nupur Henna ad, we made it a little more impressionistic. We didn't keep a very strong story or anything. So definitely he's right that with the first ad, you'll have way more to play with. And way more freedom as an editor to cut. With the second one, you already have a set sort of story and you have this shot. You can't deviate too much from that. So yeah, any other questions about ads, television, commercial cutting? No one editors. It's going to be your bread and butter eventually. Yeah.
What comforts has the digitalization of filmmaking brought to the editing table? When earlier it was.
You mean the digital or analog?
Difference between what the comforts is the digitalization of filmmaking brought to the editor or to the edit table, so that the work can be done very happily and peacefully compared to the earlier analog kind of film.
Actually, honestly, there's no. I would say it's complicated things a lot more. It was pitched as an idea which would be very revolutionary and it would kind of solve a lot of problems. What has happened is you have to understand that most of our industry works with half-baked knowledge. There are few people who will actually make the effort to go and look up certain formats or look up what is the correct way of doing something or bother to find out what is the correct way of doing something. And eventually when any of you go out to work, I would strongly suggest, if you don't want to come across as really, again, people with half-baked knowledge, please make an effort to find out even things like what does, if they say what does a DSLR stand for, please know what the meaning is. If you don't know something, Google it. Because if you don't have that thirst to at least try and find out things, nothing is going to work out. So that is one. What has happened with digital largely is that it's given directors more freedom to shoot. For instance, for Mere Dad Ki Maruti, we had a 7.5 minute climax sequence. The rushes were 8 hours for a 7.5 minute sequence. So definitely it's way more, which is perhaps good for the director, but I think it also gives you a lot of time to material to improvise with, even in the edit. But it's not always a good thing, because then sometimes earlier there were 2 ways to go, make an edit when you had analog film. Now there are 10 ways in which you can approach the same edit. And with the timelines that we have for releases and all, it's not always a good thing. Secondly, I think data management has become a major issue. Earlier it was just sitting in the telecine and, the colorist is going to do the job for you. You just digitize everything, use cinema tools, and it's there. Not much that you can do that will go wrong. Now with the digital method, there are a lot of what we call DITs. Do you guys know what DITs are? So they are basically technicians who are on set to transcode convert the raw digital files to a editable format. Okay, so suppose you are shooting, name one digital camera, any one which you guys have used. Blackmagic or 5D. Now 5D, for instance, shoots, when you shoot it raw, it's H.264 format. Okay, the footage will be in H.264 format. You can't edit that format. So it needs to be converted to something called a ProRes. Correct? You guys are I'm sure familiar with that. So that process of converting is called transcoding. And there's a guy who's supposed to do that for you. Again, with half-baked knowledge, there are people who don't know what all information is to be incorporated. Okay, so there are problems which later on when you go to the digital intermediate stage. Do you guys know about DI? Yeah? No? Anyone who knows about DI, care to explain to the people who don't know? Everyone said yes over here when I said DI. Camera students? DI? Fine. So now, after the edit stage, you know what an EDL is, right? Editing students, EDL. You know what an EDL is? Tell me.
After completion of the project, you just take out the one format known as EDL, and after it, you can take it to some other thing. I don't know what next.
Have you generated an EDL before?
No.
You know what an EDL stands for?
Only the term.
That will. No, I mean, what does EDL stand for?
No.
It's called, it stands for Edit Decision List. Okay, now another thing, when you're working, you'll come across 100 such abbreviations. Make sure you know what they are. Okay, so EDL will basically give you the in time code and out time code of every shot that you have used in the edit. Okay, because when later the colorist in what we call the DI stage, the digital intermediate stage, the colorist is going to match back what you have converted to ProRes. Okay, like to maybe a ProRes LT. What do you guys convert to? LT? ProRes LT?
No, normal ProRes. Proxy.
Okay, so proxy is the lowest. HQ is slightly higher than that. So the intermediate between proxy and HQ is LD. Alright, try if you are going to be projecting it or presenting it to someone, try not to convert it to proxy because it really compresses information. So obviously when you see a film in the theaters, it's not shown in proxy. Okay, so let's say you edit your offline in proxy, you send the EDL to the DI lab, they will match back all the, based on the EDL, the in and out time code, they will match it with the raw footage time code. Is that clear to everyone? Anyone not? Okay. So once that is matched back, then they start color correcting the footage, all the footage. And after that, with especially the digital format coming into play, there are very few theaters which are projecting film. Okay, there are only single screens and all now who project film. All the multiplexes project DCPs. Okay, that's a digital print. So after the DI is done and the sound is also brought in from the mix, there's a package which is encoded. What they call a package, which is the final picture and the final sound. And that is what is nowadays projected in theaters. Okay, so now the negative is no more the cellulose acetate, like the film thing, negative that you had earlier. That is not there anymore. Okay, now it's digital negative, which means you can just store it endlessly for any number of years. Yeah? Anything else?
Can you discuss something about what is director cuts and editor cuts?
Sorry?
What is director cuts and editor cuts?
Director cuts and editor cuts. Meaning, can you elaborate on that?
Can you discuss something about what is
what the ad was a director's cut and what is the editor's cut?
example?
See, in any film or any narrative that you cut, the editor will always have their version of cutting a story.
Take any case now.
I'm telling you that for any narrative, an editor will always have their take, as I said, a fresh perspective on the rushes. Similarly, a lot of times what happens is that the directors want to edit it in a particular way. So that is when you have the editor's cut and you have the director's cut. Like the director, what the director wants to edit and what the editor wants to edit. Okay, and most times the film is actually a combination of the director's cut and the editor's cut. Is that clear? Okay. Anyone else? Ask, come on. Editing students, you guys cannot be without questions. If you're without questions in the industry, it's completely pointless. You have to be able to ask questions. None.
Suppose if I'm doing some live program in TV, so I am handling multiple cameras as a director. So everything under control, like action, whatever in my control. But most of the time, since it is a live, editor plays very key role over there. That you need to cut this particular camera now, this one now. So as a director, what are the particular things I need to explain him? What is role of director over there towards editor?
See, it's more of a rehearsal sort of role where you know that in a multicam setup, pretty much you know that this camera is going to take the master. This 1, 2, 3 camera will be on, each of the closes. And maybe there'll be one camera which will be grabbing whatever action, between all 3, 4 cameras. So it's just you assigning those cameras and knowing what they are going to be shooting. And for fiction, for instance, it's pretty much rehearsed. That will go from camera 3 to camera 2 to camera 1, 4. You have that pattern rehearsed almost. But in a place where you don't know what the action is really going to be like, then you just have, kind of, you have to be know what each camera is delivering.
Ma'am, do you think promo editor is different from the editor who edits the film? What is differentiation between both?
See, there are usually, for instance, by contract, I refuse to do promos for films that I am editing.
Why?
I think it's a completely different type of storytelling. A lot of times in Hindi films in particular, a promo has to show something that the film is not. Let's say you have a really weak film, and a lot of times just by a sort of flippant way of talking about promos is that कि अगर promo अच्छा है तो film बुरी होगी. So it's a different type of storytelling which I don't think is kind of in symmetry with the kind of story that I want to tell in a film. And it's, I think, more also like a television commercial in the sense that it's giving you a sense of the story, but a commercial will always have an end to it. A promo tends to leave it, like a little, otherwise you won't go to watch a promo if it's giving you the whole story. So it tends to leave things a little open-ended.
So specialization is needed. Any specialization?
Not really. I think for promo editing, it's more a matter of experience. Yeah, like you can, even for television shows and stuff, people cut promos. But there are special promo editors who kind of have a particular way of cutting. Yeah, and it's basically experience-based. Anyone else, guys?
Ma'am, what is the work culture? Matlab, after coming the rushes, what is the process? Matlab, after that, what all things we have to do?
Okay. One thing that is there like a board or something?
We have a board. वहाँ से board लेके.
I'll just show you the way that I at least organize bins.
Stand के साथ लेना.
Pretty much like a universal sort of procedure. Once the DIT, as I told you, the guy who transcodes material has transcoded the material and sent it to you. You usually have an assistant editor who's going to first do the sorting of all the footage into bins. You guys are working with FCP 7?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know how to make bins and stuff, right? So you just sort all the footage into bins. What I like to do is sort them into scene-wise bins. So say a full-length feature film will have anything between 70 scenes to, I've done I think 135 scenes in a film. So it's better if all the picture and all the sound associated with each scene is in that particular scene bin. And once that is done, then a lot of editors like to do their own lineups. Now, lineups is another term which is very sort of commonly thrown about. Lineups are essentially what my assistant at least does, is that he lines up a scene, does a sort of very rough flow of the scene. So when I watch it, I know that this is what the scene is about. And then I kind of redo the entire edit of that scene. So that is pretty much the procedure. Can I have a marker? Thank you.
एक डस्टर भी दे देना रब करने के लिए.
Thank you. So I'll give you one is when the shoot has happened. Most people are doing sync sound nowadays. So you have shoot and sound has been used on location. Do you guys know how to use a digital clap? Guys, digital clap? Okay. So when you're shooting sync sound, we call it shooting sync sound when we have location sound being recorded. You have a clap which is running the same time code here. Let's say 02, 05, 15, 23. This is a 24 FPS, right? Film 24 FPS. Yeah. So this is running a time code, and it is linked to machine that is recording the sync sound. So essentially the same time code is running on that machine. When you get it in the edit, have you guys done any syncing of footage?
Yes.
Yeah? So with the traditional clap, what do? Have you used a clap in your exercises?
Yes.
So in the traditional clap, what do?
We just
Match what?
the time code to that time code. Matlab we match both the time codes.
Correct. So this is that procedure. So you've done digital clap then. So this is that procedure. And you know why we are doing that, right? Why are we syncing picture and sound? You know that.
For matching the sound.
For syncing. Yeah. So you have shoot, sync sound. The footage is sent to the edit. Now once it's come to the edit, your assistant first things first gets everything like going, they shoot day wise, right? So you sort everything into, this is how my bin at least looks like. There's a scenes bin. There is a rashes bin. Sorry, can I have another marker?
Yeah, there is two pens.
This is also not working.
This is also not working.
So this is the rashes bin. Within this will be the picture and the sound bin. Yeah, is this clear? You have all the rushes, so all the picture rushes and all the sound rushes. And these will be in day-wise folders. Is that clear? Any questions, any confusion so far? Okay. And this is also day-wise you're getting the sound. Now you're syncing everything like this. So within the scene folder, later on eventually you'll have like SFX folder, which is a sound effects folder. Thank you. You'll have the SFX folder because you'll be using some reference sound effects, or you'll be using some reference music. This is how your bin will look. Inside the scene folder, you'll have scene. If you have your last scene is like a 3-digit number, you should start with scene 001 like this. Otherwise, what will happen is if you just do scene 1, all your 1 se start hone wala scenes will collect together, which is not the optimum way to work. So you don't do that. Do scene 001, 002, going on till whenever, like scene 136. And within this, each scene folder, you have a lineup sequence where the assistant has created.
What is the meaning of lineup?
Lineup, see, if you are working outside, there'll be 101 explanations of what a lineup is. Always keep in mind a lineup is something which is just like a rough graph of the scene. Okay, so this is something that the assistant prepares. In my case, the assistant prepares this for me. A lot of editors sort of like to do this themselves. You have a lineup sequence, then you kind of cut it a little further and suit it, change the takes or whatever it is. Then you have the, like in my case, I'll do scene 1 underscore Antara edit. And also within this, you'll have the sync sequence on the basically the timeline on which the assistant has synced the picture and sound. So these 3 sequences. Once all of these are done for all your scenes, my assistant picks up this particular timeline and puts it on the, then I have a sequences timeline. They put it on the sequence. So then I have a sequence made up entirely of my edits of all the scenes. Then I start looking at that, make a rough cut, so on and so forth. And then the director comes in, then we do the director's cut, then we do a collaborative cut. And finally, since we are using sync sound over here, Is this clear to everyone till here? I'll just show you what is a very important sort of workflow, which if any of you go to Bombay eventually and want to work as assistant editors, it will also help if you are an assistant director actually, because you'll know the process through and through. And a lot of production houses like Yashraj expects the assistant editors to supervise the post-production as well. So be very clear with your fundas. Once the edit is done, this is your edit, okay? Assuming this is the final cut, it's never the final cut. So assuming that is the final cut, you send it out to 3 places. You send it to DI. This we've just discussed, digital intermediate. This you're only sending the picture. No sound ever goes to DI. So you're sending the EDL. You're sending an MOV. You guys know what an MOV is? Yeah. So you ask the DI person what format they want. It's typically a DVPAL low-res MOV. DVPAL 24 FPS MOV. And an EDL that is sent to DI. Along with whatever, if you've used transitions, if you've used like cross dissolves, all that information goes in this EDL. Also, along with DI, a lot of films are very VFX. There'll always be VFX in most, which is visual effects in most films today. So there is another EDL which goes EDL for VFX. So you just pick out the VFX shots and send another EDL to DI for only the VFX shots. So these will be matched to the raw files, and these raw files which have been matched are sent to VFX. So the VFX guy is actually working on the raw files. He's not working on ProRes or whatever other down converted format. So this is one. Remember this stage. Any doubts here? Sure.
Like VFX and this editing. Once editing is done, they are going for VFX.
Yeah.
If I suppose there is some sequence for which I need to do like after
VFX.
VFX and then editing.
Sure.
So like what is the process then?
See, like right now I have in one of the films that I am doing, I have a scene where this girl gets a paper plane, okay, like a little rocket sort of thing. And right now it's imaginary. It's supposed to be flying around the room and she's looking at it. What I have asked for is an animatic, okay, which will just give you, like, suppose it's a paper plane, it will just give you an outline and it will give you the motion, that where all this is going. So then I get the duration of the shot. Otherwise I won't know where to cut. Correct? That's your point. And where the girl is looking, all of that I can re-edit. So it's not that the plane is going here and she's looking there. So that's the answer to your question. We make an animatic, like a rough sort of CG sequence for this. If you shot chroma, you know what chroma is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So along with chroma, that's shot against a green screen. What you also do while shooting is shoot the plates. You guys know what plates are? Supposing this is like a girl walking and you didn't have enough, you shot on a beach somewhere outside and you didn't have enough time to kind of shoot something over there. So you just shoot her against a green screen and take blank, without character, take shots of the beach in different magnifications. So you know that लड़की का close up आएगा तो एक ऐसा tele lens वाला ऐसा कुछ ले लो, है ना? So you shoot all these plates, and these are also composited in the VFX stage. Okay. Now while all this is happening over here, you have also sent your edit for sound, which is basically tracking, ambience, Foley. If you are dubbing any portions, a lot of times certain actors have not pronounced something properly, so you just want to do a patch dub. Any dubs or whatever, you do this here. And another section has gone to music, which is essentially the background music. Okay. Now all of these are, we're still working with DVPAL only. DVPAL 24 FPS files. This is always sent with picture and sound. Yeah. Now keep in mind that if you have say more than 8 to 10 characters in a frame, which will happen say in an ensemble film, okay, where there are a lot of characters, there will be one mic for each character. So when you're editing, you are essentially dealing with like one layer of picture and some 8 tracks of sound, which is sometimes a lot of editors don't like doing that because it becomes a little difficult to move so many tracks around. Sometimes it can even be like 12 people or whatever. So what they typically do is within 8 tracks, maybe they'll mix 2 characters together. Or they'll give you, what they usually do is also give you one track which has a little bit, reference of everyone's mic. So you end up using say 2 tracks, and later when you're sending it to sound, you just match frame and bring back all however many tracks have been given to you. Yeah. So that's what goes for sound. The same file is usually sent to BGM. And if you've used some reference music from some other film or whatever, it's up to the person who does BGM whether to use, keep that reference music or not refer to it at all. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Then from here, the sound and BG is sent to the mix. Yeah. And here, meanwhile, your VFX guy generates something called a DPX, which is also sent over here to the DI. And the final film is made up of these DPX files, which are combined with the bounce that is given from the mix. And that is what basically consists of your film. Yeah, is this clear? Any questions? Sure. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, you want to ask something? DPX. You want to ask about it? It's just a format basically in which the film is encoded. Okay, so it's the VFX guy will also give an output, and the guy who's color corrected your film is going to just combine his DPXs with the VFX guy's DPXs. So it creates one whole film using that. Yeah? You guys want to take a break now? And then we can maybe come back. How much time do we have left? We have half an hour left. So shall we come back, and I just want to show one clip from one of my films. Okay, so that's the song. Now, anything that you observe about the song? Conceptually, what is the song? As an editor, if you are given this, there are 2 stories going. Okay, like 2 emotions at least happening. So tell me, one of you tell me, what did you perceive of it? It looks like a very filmy, normal, commercial song. But when you're actually cutting it, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. One of you, come on, tell me. Tell me. What do you think was the primary thread of the song? What is happening roughly? Like, there's a girl dancing, correct? And she's dedicated to her would-be husband. As an editor, what is the challenge that is there?
म्यूजिक बीट के अकॉर्डिंग कहाँ पे कौन शॉट लगाने हैं, और फिर वो जो वॉइस है, वॉइस को हर बार उसके बाद क्या एक्सप्रेशन होगा लोगों का, उसके डांस को देखकर लोगों का, तो उसको बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट था.
The expressions.
हाँ, एक्सप्रेशन बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है. प्लस वही म्यूजिक पे कहाँ पे शॉट चेंज करने हैं, कौन शॉट कहाँ लगाने हैं, ये सब पे बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है. लास्ट में एक जगह पे जब वो रवि किशन देखता है, तो वहाँ पे उसका वॉल्यूम थोड़ा तेज था, तो उसके बारे में कुछ पूछना था. वो थोड़ा सा डाउन हो सकता था. जो बोलता है ना कि अरे भाई यहाँ पे है, फिर बाद में वो ऑटोमेटिक वो साउंड नीचे जाता है. तो
that is a mixed decision. That is not my decision. That is something that the director wants certain dialogues to not be heard very clearly, to give it more of an impression of जैसे हम verisimilitude कहते हैं, like real life. कि अगर आप real life में आपके कान के पास एक performance चल रहा है, actually you won't be able to hear a lot of what is happening, like what someone else is saying. So that is a direction and sound based decision. But the rest, what you said is absolutely correct. That there were actually, we did some 3 or 4 versions of this song. The first one which I had, because I thought the highlight of this song was really the reactions. You know, that is what made, it's a comedy film. It's a through and through comedy film. So for me, the reactions are what made the song. You know, it was not so much the dance moves really, which were defining the song. Then Ashima came in and she, because she had envisioned it differently. So for her, the dance is what made the song. Because it's this, you know, normal girl who suddenly does this very scandalous dance in front of her entire family. So for her, the comedy was in that. So we did an entire cut, which was, we re-edited the song. And we did a cut where it was entirely according to Ashima, director's cut. Okay? Where it's a choreographed sequence. As he said, you cut it to beat. Also remember that most times you avoid cutting right on, like if you see the waveform, you try to avoid cutting right on beat. Because it's a very jarring cut then. Try to cut either 2 frames left or 2 frames right to the beat. Okay? That's one. And a lot of times you just go with like the flow of the song. It doesn't necessarily have to be a beat driven. Here, because it was such a hardcore choreographed step, we went down the beat cutting path. So we did the director's cut, which was a beat cut and like a choreographed dance, with the reactions like coming in very sparingly. Then when we watched it, we realized that the fun of the song was completely gone. We watched it several times and all, and even Ashima herself said, oh yeah, you know, I'm missing that reaction which you had put, like the mother doing the counting, the brother and the Gattu's character, them, you know, kind of reacting to the dance, the husband's reactions. So then we kind of did a collaborative cut, again which I spoke of, that director and editor kind of merge their cuts and find a middle path. You know, so that is what finally after 4 or 5 versions, we picked exactly which portions to keep, which portions not to keep. There were few more reactions which were equally if not better than the current ones. We couldn't use them because, I mean, you really have to, a lot of times you'll really like something, more often than not you won't end up using it. I've said this before. So yeah, questions?
Ma'am, when you edit a song, does the choreographer come along with you? Does he sit with you, or it is only you do it on the beat or the music?
Well, it depends. Usually the choreographer is there. For this, Ashima herself had choreographed the song. She had seen some reference videos of a Punjabi wedding and she had choreographed it herself. So, and they were pretty like obvious because when you're shooting a song, you have overlapping bits and the audio is playing in the background, so you pretty much know what goes where. But in a few places, yes, there are, the choreographer usually sits on the entire edit. That's how I like to work. And they do a cut with my assistant. And after they are done, then we kind of adapt that cut to more to suit our film. Because, you know, you want to emphasize certain characters, not emphasize some other characters, that sort of thing. But yeah, I've done songs also where the choreographer is missing in action, so then you have to do it yourself.
After shooting, if there is any mistake in footage or after editing, why the blame always come to editor?
To editor? That's
Means
because
if there is a problem with rushes,
yeah,
but the blames come to editor.
Because it's easy
To blame.
No,
All the
because
problem lies with the editor.
the thing is, the editing stage is a very vulnerable stage where the director, you also have to understand that the director is the most vulnerable person in the unit. each of us are kind of securing our assets and saying, okay, this is my job, this is my job. The director is doing the entire thing, and their weaknesses are most visible in the edit. So it's always, that's why editors in the industry nowadays are being changed also at the drop of a hat, because directors are feeling that it's the inability of the editor to work with the rushes and they are not able to bring out the best. I think it's more of a miscommunication or lack of communication problem. I don't think you should take that very seriously, to my experience. Yeah, because if it's something which the rushes are only like that and they limit you, whether it's you editing or me editing or a third person editing, they will not be able to bring out what is not there. Anything else?
Question takes me to another segment. Editor being present on shoot and sitting back in the studio, what is more advantageous?
See, I think it's depending on the situation or the kind of film that you're doing. Like what I was discussing with you earlier, for instance, I normally never go on shoot. As a rule, even while in the Film Institute, a lot of editors participated in the shoot. I have never gone on shoot because I believe it kind of ruins the objective perspective that we keep talking about. Because then you are seeing, oh, ये shot लेने में इतना stress गया, इतना time लिया, अब तो लगाना ही होगा ये shot. You cannot think like that. That is a director's thinking. As an editor, you have to see what works for the story. So the only way I feel that I am detached enough is if I'm not on shoot. But on one of my recent films, I went for 2 weeks on location because there were some inputs which I was providing as an editor, and they just wanted me to be there to kind of make sure those are being kind of integrated and those are present and all of that. So I think it really varies from project to project, really.
सपोज शूट पे एडिटर है नहीं, तो एडिटर जब एडिट करेगा तो उसके साथ कोई एडी होना चाहिए या नहीं?
वो भी आई थिंक डिपेंड्स ऑन द एडिटर,
क्योंकि स्टोरी तो डायरेक्टर का चीज़ है, टोटली शूट जो भी है, तो जो एडिस है तो वो डायरेक्टर के साथ मिलके तो काम किया, तो वो कोई बंदा क्या आपके साथ बैठना चाहिए एडिटिंग के टाइम, तो इसके बाद ऐसे सीक्वेंस होना चाहिए, इसके बाद ये शॉट चाहिए और नहीं है?
Ideally, first cut when the editor is doing, try not to have someone sit with you, because remember that everyone else, at least on a feature film, has spent at least 6 months. The direction team has spent at least 6 months with the script. The editor has just got onto the project, so you need to give the editor time to explore the footage, see what works, what doesn't work. Again, that's where the objective perspective comes into play. If the AD also sits, a lot of times ADs with all good intentions give very biased feedback because they are the director's team. So again, you're getting the directorial point of view. You're not getting an objective point of view. So, and anyway, in the first place, AD is coming into, there are certain rules few of us follow at least. You don't let ADs come and sit in the edit. You try to avoid actors coming and sitting in the, Yash Raj has a strict rule that actors are never allowed in the edit. Okay? Finally, whenever you are ready to show it to people, then you call in your direction team and you show it and you have a discussion. But honestly, the edit room is a pretty sacrosanct place where it's just there's room for the director and the editor. And of course, whenever the assistant editor is around.
What are the things that we need to take care while editing a documentary? Because for fiction, we know, as a director, I know that this is the particular place where I need to say cut. But documentary, I keep on shoot for a few minutes, but I will end up with around 8 hours of footage. But I need around 30 or 40 minutes of documentary.
But that is something that as a director, you need to plan out. Agar 8 hours mein you are shooting something, and you know that you will end up using maybe 15 minutes of it, then your attempt should be to streamline it at the shooting stage itself as far as possible.
If I'm very much conscious about the story, I can do that. I'm going on particular subject, I'm shooting it, it's okay, I can go further. But if I am doing some documentary based on traveling, I'm going from here to somewhere by walk without money or something. I'm just capturing all the footage. So then I don't know what it comes out. So there, what are the precautions that we need to take in editing?
In editing, see, you can't really. I've just recently edited a documentary also, which is about similar travel sort of theme, where there's this guy who went from Bangalore to Delhi in like 21 days. He cycled on a regular Dudwala wala cycle. So it's the same thing. They've shot in like almost in real time. They have footage, but then you need to, again, as an editor, get from the director, maybe a one-liner. What is the story about? Like for a travel, this documentary, the documentary was not about him traveling and cycling. The name of the documentary is it's not about the cycle. So it's not about him pedaling all the way and kitna time laga and all that. It's an experiential sort of thing. So we focused on faces that he saw, the kind of food he ate, the kind of roads he cycled on. So you kind of have to arrive at that story, then see after rough cut if it works or not. Otherwise, then you have to go down a different route.
What is the relation between DOP and the editor? What kind of relation?
Again, DOPs, I don't think there's a very deep relationship, and it's ideal for me at least. I don't have a lot of interaction with the DOPs because again, they are people who've stayed. They see the film in a different manner from the way you perceive it. So there is almost always some difference of opinion, and ultimately, it's the DOP has captured it. Yeah, so you've done your role, but the editor needs to be given time to do his or her own role. So it's not really a lot of interaction.